And the final element that made me very happy to get out of Washington when we did is Secretary Gates said that over the next 5 years he wants to flatline military spending, no increase, and cut $60 billion from what we are now spending, hopefully, as he said, from research, development, and procurement to fund other initiatives that he wants to do in the military. If his vision of the future is accurate, we will be okay. In the next 5 years, we'll be okay. But 15 to 20 years from now, we could be paying for this decision if it's not accurate. And once again, the concern I have is if you think back to 30 years ago when Ronald Reagan was just becoming president, how many of you in your wildest dreams thought we would be fighting in Afghanistan and Iran? Go forward 30 years, and I'm sorry, in my estimation, I want this country to be militarily prepared for any alternative, for multi-front and multi-conflict alternatives, and we're flat out not doing that. The most depressing thing for me was leaving this session with the House having adopted a budget that I think leaves us at risk in the future. Now, that budget hasn't gone all the way through. The Senate hasn't done their side of it. We haven't done a conference. I'm still hoping that we can make some changes. But I'm very nervous about the military future of this country. And that's probably the biggest concern I actually have right now. Let me do the final one on health care. Only because the debate on health care has gone on one pattern, and it doesn't necessarily need to go down one road. You should know that the House has a bill that has to go through 3 committees. It has gone through 2 or 3 committees so far. I am on one of those committees, so I've already voted against the bill once. And if it stays the way it is right now, I will vote against it when it comes to the floor. The Senate has not actually built a bill. They're rumors. They haven't put anything on paper yet. I have no idea what they will come up with. I do want you to know that in healthcare issues, this is not necessarily the only game in town. Whether there is a government option or not is not the only one that's out there. I still like a bill that is introduced by Stephen Shadegg of Arizona that has yet to be heard by anybody. This is a bill that looks at the same issue and says, why don't we solve it from a different approach? Rather than a one-size-fits-all program coming from the federal government, allow people as many options as you can. I like the idea of options. Look, when I go to the store to buy cereal, there's a whole aisle full of choices, many of whom I have never heard of before. And definitely not when I was a child, when I was picking the Post cereal so I could get the baseball cards on the back, right?
Sorry.
Even if I want vanilla ice cream, I still go to a place that gives me 31 options. There are 59 different kinds of Eggo waffles. You should be able to have options. The Shadegg bill takes the tax code and the same break that's given to large corporations for providing employer insurance would go for small corporations as well as for individuals to go out and purchase insurance of their choice. It would also encourage small businesses to provide health savings accounts with a high deductible or catastrophic policy on top of it, so that the individual could then have some control and destiny over their interface with their physician and actually have some say in how the money is going to be spent. It would also, at the same time, allow different groups to pool so you can have different kinds of associations and allow individuals to buy insurance that is from another state so you can go across state lines to get insurance and you can actually shop around and have some kind of options. And then for those who clearly are in that uninsurable category, to work with states so that states take the responsibility and work with them for some kind of option. I mean, we do it with workers' comp. It could be something similar. And then also attack tort liability and tort reform so the doctors don't have to practice additional procedures just to cover themselves from being sued. That, to me, is a great idea, and that, to me, is something I'd like to push forward. I've co-sponsored that bill. I like those types of ideas. I want to give more options out there. To me, if we're going to solve the problem of health care coverage, it's not just an insurance issue. If you have insurance, it's still expensive. The only way you do that is by allowing the individual and the physician to work together and to realize what the true cost is and to make decisions together. And I don't like a third party coming between those decisions. And I definitely don't want a third party and a government bureaucrat coming between those decision makers. So that's still the goal I have, which means there are some other options that are out there. Now, look, what I'd like to do is allow you the opportunity to ask questions if you have any. Since I don't know all the answers, if you want to make a statement, that's even better. I realize that some of the statements you will make, I will agree. There are probably some of the statements you'll make with which I will not agree. And there are some of you who will actually tell me something I probably haven't thought. And I appreciate that kind of opportunity. Let me just put some ground rules here for sake of what people have told me in other areas. I'll give you a guarantee and a promise that if you're asking me a question, I will not answer my cell phone while you're asking me the question. If some of you were listening to Barney Frank earlier, if you don't call me a Nazi, I won't call you a dining room table. I'm very clear that what I want to do is hear your ideas and opinions, which is why if you don't get a chance to say them, that's okay, we'll write them down at the same time. This is not a debate, which means, that's what I said when the applause came earlier, if you can refrain from that, that would help out. If you want to boo, if you can refrain from that, that would help out as well. I do want to hear everyone's ideas, and I want them to have the courtesy of being able to express those ideas. The nice thing I know about Utah and representing Utah is we're a whole lot nicer than the rest of the nation. I hate to say this, when I watched Congress in action, the first time I saw a contentious bill on the floor, I sat in my office watching it on C-SPAN, and I said, well, you couldn't say that in the Utah legislature. That would be out of order in Utah. No one in Utah would ever try and get away with it. We are nicer people. So I truly expect, for anybody who is looking for YouTube moments, I truly expect this to be one of the most boring meetings you'll ever go through. But I am one of the reforms we should have. We don't have that. So right now it's just on the personal.
Josh Taylor, Clearfield, Utah, Mr. Bishop.
Go ahead.
I want to ask you a question regarding health care. Congressman Bishop, I believe it's the American way that no one should get rich off of the misfortune of others. Healthcare insurance CEOs make millions of dollars by denying much-needed coverage to unfortunate premium-paying American citizens. Congressman Bishop, do you believe that healthcare insurance companies should be a for-profit business? If so, do you also believe that the police department and the fire department should be a for-profit business? If you do not believe that the police department and the fire department should be for-profit, please explain to me your position as to why health care insurance should be for-profit.
You know, I hate to say this, but the concept of co-ops is interesting. What I am going to tell you is that health insurance should not be done by the federal government, nor should fire departments, nor should police departments. Let me say, the concept of federalism. I gave a speech on the floor once in which I tried to go through the preamble of the Constitution and explain what the General Welfare Clause was. And General Welfare Clause is not that everyone should be healthy, happy, and giddy. General welfare meant that if it wasn't that everywhere in this nation, the federal government shouldn't do it, period. So when Savannah burned down in the early 1800s, Congress did not appropriate any money, even though they had a great deal of empathy for Savannah, because it was only one city. Now, just a minute. Then I had a lady from Alabama call up and say, but I like all these things that Congress is doing. And she missed my point. You did too. The issue is not should these things take place. The issue is at what level of government should they take place. And these issues should not take place on the federal level. Military spending, yes. Not police, not fire, and not insurance.
Amen!
You're wrong!
Amen.
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 Insurance company trying to do a co-op that's not for profit. That's irrelevant to the issue of what level of government takes place, which